All right, let's get some insight on the Duke Blue Devils. Good football program. Illinois has a way of scheduling these non-conference opponents 10 years in advance, right for when they get pretty good at football. Mike Elko had a nice run. Manny Diaz, 9-win season in his first year. Adam Rowe covers Duke for the Devil's Den, part of 24/7 Sports. Adam, Duke football, good. Illinois football, good. Look at us.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's like I don't know if Illinois was good in like the 1960s, but this is like the Duke football's golden era ever since then. Yeah, the last 2 years, I mean 2 years under Mike Elko, they rebounded from like I don't know what was going on at the end of the David Cutcliffe era, but yeah, I mean he turned the program around and Manny Diaz, for better or worse, like picked things up and there was no drop off. And now they've got a quarterback that they feel like can actually do some damage. They've spent big in the offseason, which is not something that Duke football has typically done. And there's a lot of confidence around the program right now. So yeah, it's fun. It'll be
So,
a good game on Saturday.
yeah, so take me in though. Like, I mean, you mentioned the investment they're making in football, and sometimes you worry about a school like Maryland that cares so much about basketball. Is their football program going to suffer because of it? Obviously, John Shire and Duke are still rolling after that transition. Why are they investing like this in Duke football and going and getting a guy in Darian Mensah? We'll talk about. I think is a dude at the college football level will play in the NFL. What has been the impetus behind that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, there was a lot of transition right around the time Cutcliffe left. Obviously, Coach K retiring. And even at the athletic director level, I mean, Kevin White retired, Nina King took over, and all of a sudden she had to like replace a legendary head coach and Coach K, which I mean, there's differing stories on how much influence she had there. But then had to go hire Mike Elko. And I think at the university level, with all the conference realignment stuff going on, they realized that if they wanted to compete at the Power Four level, they had to make their football program respectable. I remember I think it was 2008, like before Cutcliffe took over, Duke had scheduled a series with Louisville, and they tried to back out of the series, and Louisville took them to court to sue them for breach of contract. And in court, literally Duke's lawyers argued that and proved it that Duke football was so bad that they could literally replace them with anyone in the country, and there'd be no fall off whatsoever. So and they won the case. Like demonstrably proven in court that they were the worst program in FBS football. So it's crazy to see how far it's come since then. They reinvested in the stadium, indoor practice facility. They just did the locker rooms. Finally got a player lounge. Yeah, I mean, and I think Manny Diaz said recently, if you're a senior at Duke this year, you've seen like 3 losses at home or something like that. Like it's kind of crazy.
So Manny Diaz first run at Miami, replaced after 3 years. Wasn't a terrible run, 16-9 in the ACC, but we know Miami's got pretty high standards. What are they getting after his Penn State defensive coordinator run? What version of Manny Diaz are they getting now?
Yeah, I think somebody who's failed, not I mean quote unquote failed, but has learned those lessons and knows now what to do and what not to do. Diaz was obviously famous for being in Miami. His dad was a mayor down there in the city for a long time. Defensive coordinator at Penn State. He's a Florida State alum. He actually coached at NC State before. He's been around. I mean, especially in the ACC, so he kind of knows what to do and what not to do. I feel like now. And at Duke, the locker room culture, I think that's what made it really easy for Mike Elko to kind of pick it up and take it running. The locker room culture was just so strong under Cutcliffe, even though they were losing games like crazy. They were still like there was still that core kind of value there. And he's really tapped into that. They've had their strength and conditioning coach that was brought in by Mike Elko. David Feely is stayed through the transition. I think that helped a lot. Strength and conditioning coaches spend more time with players than any coach does. So I think that was really key. And he puts those guys through the ringer. They talk about going through the sewer and fighting, and I think like in a game like Saturday at noon, it's going to be hot. Suns beaten down, and I expect these teams feel like they're pretty even. But Illinois wants to run the ball down your throat, obviously, and that could wear to the defense down. So I think that's going to play into kind of how the game plays out in the fourth quarter.
All right, so I know the game against Elon was not the prettiest for 3 quarters, 4-2,
No,
but
not at all.
but Darian Mensah sure looked the part. I was really
Yeah,
impressed with him, and some people make him out to be a runner. That could not be further from the case. From my opinion, he reminded me a little bit of Michael Penix the way he throws the ball only with his right hand instead of his left. What,
right.
what is the initial impression inside that program and from you about what Darian Mensah has brought? Because obviously they spent a lot of money to get him there.
Yeah, I mean, I think from what I've heard, the fact that he came into the locker room and kind of took over the leadership role like that, I think was really impressive to the coaching staff, to the players, and the guys listened to him. Everybody that has talked about his performance, like from the defensive standpoint in practice, they're like, "This guy's a dude." This Chandler Rivers, All-American cornerback, he's like, "This is the best quarterback I've ever played against." And so I think you saw a little bit of that in the first half against Elon, where he was still like making plays, like even though the team overall might have looked a little shaky, um, he was still making plays. I mean, there was a wide open drop touchdown by the running back that would have made the score look a lot different. Another deep ball that hit the wide receiver right in the hands and bounced off that would have been like a 50-yard gain. I mean, little plays, right? That they're just, you could tell they're just working on timing, but he completed his last 14 passes in the game. He's 27 for 34, almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, it felt kind of like they didn't want to let him run too. Like there was a couple plays where it seemed like he had an opportunity to run and like he almost missed like mishandled the snap at one point and they got stuck behind the left tackle and like that was the kind of play where you would expect him to kind of run and he just dropped back and threw a dart like so there's some question as to how much were they going vanilla in that first game so Illinois couldn't see what they're planning to roll out. I mean, there's a lot of film on Jonathan Brewer's system, SMU. He's a Gus Malzahn guy, so like I don't think anything is going to surprise Illinois really, but maybe they just didn't want to show it
Yeah.
all in the first week. So I think he can run, but I think his tendency is to stay in the pocket or roll out and find a target downfield.
What do you think of what he has around him? It's a veteran offensive line. There's some weapons. I know they've added one from the portal. What have they surrounded him with in that offense? Strengths, weaknesses on that side.
Yeah, they feel really confident about the wide receivers that they have. This kid Cooper Barkate from he was a Harvard transfer. He was an FCS All-American last year. He graduated from Harvard in 3 years. So talk about hitting it in the books, right? But he was like a high 3-star, 4-star coming out of Mater Dei High School in California. Like really talented kid. He had offers from Notre Dame, a lot of the Big Ten schools, and he decided he wanted to go to Harvard, get his undergrad, and then go to like a Duke or Stanford or something like that for postgrad. This is his plan. It's kind of crazy. And he caught 5 passes for 117 yards in the first game. Like there's a lot of confidence in him, even though he got to campus a little late. Angelo Anthony is a guy I think you might be familiar with from the Big Ten. They have really high hopes for him, but he wasn't even a starter in week one. So they have 2 small guys that are real shifty, real fast. Samir Hagens and Kayshawn Brown. But yeah, I mean Mensa hit 9 different receivers in the game. In his 27 passes. So he definitely was spreading the ball around. Um, and then they've got, a good stable of backs. They got 4 guys that they're really confident in. Like you said, the offensive line. I mean, last year they had Malik Murphy at quarterback. That dude didn't run. Like I think he ran for like negative 14 yards the entire year. Like he's the exact opposite of Mensa as far as being able to run. So there was some question as to how the offensive line would work in more of a run-oriented offense because they're passing the ball every down basically last year. I think they did okay. There's definitely room for improvement there, but you gotta like that they're cohesive and they've been together now for at least a year.
We know the Manny Diaz defense. It wreaked havoc in Luke Altmire's first Big Ten start. Luke's grown a lot since then. Illinois' offensive line has grown a lot since then. But obviously, he's got this aggressive style. Probably vanilla against Elon. But were there concerns on that side of the ball with the way Elon was able to move, or is that just first game jitters?
No, for sure. Duke's defense was first in tackles for loss last year in the nation, sixth in sacks. They just, I think they're top five in forced fumbles. They just create havoc. They love to live in the backfield. They're tough, and I think Elon's offensive coordinator is a new guy, Doug Martin. I mean, he's been around forever. I think he did a really good job of. There were some delayed handoffs that really gashed Duke's defense, where the offensive line would kind of let the defensive ends overshoot the quarterback, and then they found lanes that way. So I think that was really smart, and I'd be interested to see if Illinois does something similar, because you can make defenses pay if they're that aggressive, So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think Duke feels like they have two of the best defensive ends in college football, Wesley Williams and VJ Anthony. They've got a guy, Bryce Davis, that they flipped from Clemson, who's a freshman that was supposed to do big things, and he's like third on the depth chart, second on the depth chart. Crazy. Bradley Gompers was big Penn State target. They almost flipped him at the end of the recruiting cycle. He's stuck. I mean, he's a top 50 kid. Like, he's third on the depth chart too. It kind of speaks to how much talent they've developed in the defense. But you could tell they're still figuring things out in that first half for sure.
The secondary, I talked with V'Angelo Bentley, the Duke cornerbacks coach, who's a real Illinois player back in the day. Chandler Rivers, you've mentioned, is a stud, All-American. Terry Moore was hurt last week. What do they have on that back end? Because obviously the linebacker struggled a little bit last week. What do they got in the secondary?
Yeah. So obviously Chandler Rivers, lockdown corner on one side. They've got Kamari Robinson on the other side. He was highly touted coming out of St. Thomas Aquinas. I don't know how you pronounce that. And then a safety that, like, even though Terry Moore is out, and he's probably going to be out for like another month, they really feel good about Deshaun Stone. And Caleb Weaver is a safety transfer that they brought in from Sam Houston State, another FCS All-American last year. They really like him, his ability to kind of fill in at multiple safety spots. And then Jaden Francois is another guy they brought in as a kind of he played cornerback, I think, at his last stop. He's been around the block like 3 or 4 schools, but they brought him in to play this star safety linebacker hybrid position, and he led the team in tackles in the first week. So they really like what they have with him, and they're deep back there too. So I think depth is going to play a big part in Saturday's game, just because. Well, you haven't been to Wallace Wade Stadium. We were talking before, but like the sun is like 85% on the field, and it'll be shining on Illinois side of the field like the whole day. Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see if guys wear down, start cramping up or whatever, and to see how both coaching staffs handle that.
Yeah, Illinois is raved about its depth. It'll be tested. I think in 90 degrees, it's unseasonably cool. Usually it's still like 85 degrees around here. It's like,
yeah, it's been like that here too.
It's like perfect fall weather right now. It's like 65 and 70 degrees this week. So they're going back into the summer. Now training camp was pretty hot, but it's going to be a factor.
It's hot. I mean, it's hot. That people always talk about humidity, but it's like humidity is a problem in North Carolina. It won't be as humid there. Just because it's been cool, but like, yeah, expect it to be warm.
yeah, for sure. What does this game mean for Duke? It reminds me last year of when Kansas came in ranked against Illinois. It was kind of like a prove it game for Illinois. I think this is a prove it game for Illinois to show they're worthy of the hype. But what does this mean for the Duke side?
Yeah, everything. I mean, they've got really high expectations for this team. They feel like they can compete at the highest level in the ACC. I think they're picked like sixth in the ACC preseason poll, but not by a lot. Like they could have finished fourth easily. They really feel like they've got a really good chance to make it far. But this game is going to determine how far they can really make it on a national level. Like even if they lose this game, right, they can still compete in the ACC and make their way into potentially in the postseason. But that's a real possibility for Duke football, and you haven't been able to say that in a long time. This is a huge stepping stone for them. Prove it or lose it. I think finally they're starting to sell some tickets. There was some concern of how many people were actually going to be in the stands, but it looks like it's going to be pretty nicely populated for Saturday. So yeah, there's a lot of excitement around this game for sure. Especially ESPN's coming to town, ACC huddle right before the game. Like it should be a good atmosphere.
Yeah, what do you expect crowd wise?
Hard to say. They only had like 15,000 people there last week, which is really low. The student section showed out. Like Duke is such a small school. Like I think the undergrad population is like something silly, like 7,000 students or something like that.
It's like Northwest.
But
Yeah, Northwest.
yeah, I would say like 75% of them were there.
Yeah.
So they took up like three sections, just the students. But then every other section was very sparsely populated. Looking at the seating map, you can tell like the people in the ticket office have been very smart about like staggering. They'll sell one row, leave a row, sell a row, leave a row. Like so there's going to be some sections in there where it's open, and the bowl. It's in a bowl. The stadium's like a bowl, so the concourse is really open. So sometimes a lot of guys will just stand up on the concourse, and then they have this really odd, not odd, it's cool, but like unique. They call it the Devil's Deck, and it's in the end zone where they have like basically taken over like the top halves of the end zone sections. So they cut out a bunch of seats, but put like a party deck up there. So there's like cornhole and a exclusive bar. And so they brought people out of like the stadium into that. So it kind of seems like it's not as full sometimes. Yeah. But yeah, it should be cool. Should be good atmosphere. 12 noon games in the South aren't always the most loud, but we'll see.
Last thing for you, Adam. What's the keys for Duke against obviously a strong Illinois team? What's the keys for them getting this done?
Yeah, their defense has to show up a lot better than they did in week one. Illinois is obviously dangerous with Luke Altmire. I think that, like I said, I've harped on it a few times now. Depth is going to be big at the end of the game in the fourth quarter. Just who can kind of weather that storm and still have their ones playing towards the end of the game, I think is going to make a big difference. It's going to be tight, I think. It's going to be a close game. Yeah. I mean, I know Illinois is favored by 2.5. If you look at like FPI has Duke as favorites. S&P Plus has it like a 1.5 point game or something like that. It's gonna be a close game if everything goes as expected. It's gonna be fun
for sure. My first trip to Durham. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to seeing you, Adam. Really appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, man. See you then.
As Wayne Campbell would say, game on. Week 1 of the NFL starts now, and every touchdown brings you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. This isn't just football, it's first touchdown fireworks, anytime touchdown rushes, and live bets that ride every momentum shift. At DraftKings, every play is your next shot to win. Micah Parsons, the Packers, are giving 2.5 points at home to the Lions this weekend, and Caleb Williams and the Bears are getting 2.5 points at home against the Vikings on Monday night. New customers, this one's for you. Bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, grab over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Your season starts now. Download the DraftKings Sports app and use code Illini. That's code Illini to get $300 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first bet of $5 or more. Plus, over $200 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. Fees may apply in Illinois. 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday tickets/terms. Limited time offer. Welcome back into the Illini Inquirer podcast. Let's talk about the Illinois side of things for this big Illinois Duke matchup. We bring in Joey Wagner. And Joey, this feels a lot like last year. Illinois had Kansas come to them. I don't know if it's the inverse because Duke is trying to do what Illinois did to Kansas, but it just feels like such a tone setter for the rest of the season, right? I mean, for Illinois, obviously it's a game to prove yourself as a top 12 team, number 11 in the AP top 25, but it's just such a tone setter early in the year that if you get this one, you feel like it's going to be a pretty good year with a chance to be a great year. If you lose this one, all of a sudden we're questioning a lot of things.
Yeah, some doubt can creep in, right? Some of the, here it goes. Here's Illinois again. So, yeah, there's a chance to really make a statement. And we don't say that Duke is a good team, but it's not like you're going on the road to a top 25 game. I mean, this is still it's a really talented quarterback that we're going to talk about in a tough task. But I think if they lose this one, then all of a sudden there's some real doubts because you don't have anything banked away, right? Like if you win this and you go to Indiana and you lose, you've got the Duke win banked away. You've got Western Michigan for whatever that's worth banked away, presumably. But this is just kind of so early and such a gut reaction type of thing that I don't think people would jump off the ship entirely, but there would be a lot of nerves after that game.
A lot of doubt around the program. I don't know if inside the program, if they lost the first game at Duke, I could say, oh, we're not going to win 9 games or we're not going to win 8 games. Can they make a bowl game? I don't think anything like that. I wouldn't think anything like that because it's a tough test early in the year. And for both these teams, they didn't schedule these kind of programs when they scheduled this 10 years ago or whatever it was. Illinois is really good at this, of scheduling teams way in advance, Joey, just for when they get good. And Duke certainly has become a very respectable program under both Mike Elko and now under Manny Diaz.
Yeah, it has not aged well. And then, look, it didn't age well for Kansas. It didn't age well for Duke. It didn't age well for Illinois. Kind of when they were all scheduled, that same footing of a Power 4 program, the bottom end of a Power 4 program, you think, okay, you just schedule one another. The bad news for all three of those teams, they all kind of came up at the same time, and they have not aged well. And I think, Jeremy, it's not a topic for now, but how scheduling looks in the new era moving forward. I mean, obviously, Missouri's on the schedule. Duke's paying this back. But do you just try to go away from some of those Power 4 opponents if you're playing 9 Big Ten games and bank 3 assumed wins away with a couple bye games in there?
It seems like the Big Ten and SEC are both very encouraging of one Power 4 opponent. And now with the SEC going to 9 games, as long as everybody else does that, I'm game for it, Joey, because it's fun. It's fun to have this game rather than another Texas State or something like that, another FBS lower level opponent. I'd rather have this. I do think I like that Brett is scheduling an FCS opponent in state. And it seems like he wants to do that every year. I think it's Southern Illinois. Next year, Eastern Illinois will come back. Illinois State's on the schedule. I like having that, and hopefully it's one of your first 2 games. Missouri's a really tough opponent. That they've gone from 8 games to 6 games. It seems like they'll stay locked into that with what the SEC is doing. I love that kind of rivalry, but it doesn't leave much room for a ramp up, right? So it seems like it'll be FCS opponent, MAC opponent, and then Missouri and 9 Big Ten games. Here we go.
Yeah, that's probably the move. And if you're Illinois, if you're Missouri, and the preference is to have another Power 4 team in there, you've kind of gotten that taken care of moving forward. And I think we know that if you don't have to think about scheduling, that is generally most administrations like to have that fall into place where they can, so you don't have to scramble to find a Power 4 opponent. So if you got one kind of that makes sense, I can see the argument to stick with it.
All right, we ignored the 6-pack of questions leading into Western Illinois, and we were vindicated for that because we knew it wasn't going to be much of a game. But we will do that today. 6-pack of questions leading into the Duke game to preview that. We'll do our picks to click and bold predictions going into that. But before we get into that, Joey, I do want to shine a light on a fantastic story you wrote. Ben Miller, the former Illinois assistant, now an Illini analyst. You wrote a fantastic feature. You talked to him and his wife about his battle with cancer over the last several years. And I told you once I read it, like how proud I was of you, of what you did, because you're such a fantastic writer. It's why I wanted to bring you over here. But also, I just knew that was going to resonate with so many people, because so many people go through that battle. And the one thing, I know people love this. I know people love just talking about the games, the intel, the intrigue of building rosters. But one thing you and I are very passionate about is telling stories of the people that we cover, to humanize them. And I don't think you could have done a better job with that. I'm so thankful that Ben was willing to share his story. And obviously you brought it out and wrote it beautifully. So shout out to you. And if anybody has not read that story, please go and read it. But behind the scenes, Joey, anything stand out to you when reporting on that?
No, first, thank you. I appreciate it. It's one of those that you just hope you can tell in a way that is justifiable and represents everything Ben, his wife Megan, their 3 kids went through over the last 3 years, and kind of the anxiety now of what's next for them. But no, you're just thankful that that someone wants to talk. Like sometimes you go through that and it's understandable to say like, no, I'm good. I would rather not, but I was really appreciative that both Ben and Megan were interested in talking about it and being so open about it. You know, there are times you do some of those stories, some of those interviews, and you get the sense like you wonder how much they want to talk. Then after the conversation, it's like, okay, it does feel like they did want to share. And this cancer affects everybody, right? It's affected my family. I'm sure it's affected yours. You can go down the line. So it's something that a lot of people I think can resonate with. So I was just really happy that they opened the door into their world and you know shared with what it's been like. And luckily things look like they're on the upswing for Ben Miller now, but it was a long 3 years for him and a really, really difficult 3 years for he and his family.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect anything different, but shout out. And that wasn't the story. The story was about Ben and his battle and his family's battle. And just, I think that connects with so many people. But shout out to Illinois for their support throughout this. Ben was an assistant. I mean, he lost that, right? Like he lost being an assistant here, but he's an analyst and he seems like he's really grown in the role. And that has allowed him to spend more time with his family, to spend more time focused on his health. And that's great that Illinois was supportive throughout that. So I just want to shout that out as well. Anything else, Joey, before we head to our 6-pack?
No, I mean, just real quick. I mean, you also have a great feature on Tomiwa Durjai on the site. I promise this isn't going to be a podcast of me and Jeremy going back and forth saying what we like. But I think broadly, one, it's a really good story. And two, if this were just about if this whole job was just watching the games and just going over the X's and O's nonstop, I don't know that either one of us would be doing this.
No.
Right? The whole part of this job that you and I gravitate toward, and everyone does it differently. And I think that's fair if some, maybe that's not for everybody, but getting to know people, earning the trust to tell stories, trying to help people who are watching from their house, from the stadium, from across the country, understand who's out there and what got them to this point. I think that is our favorite part of the job. I don't want to speak for you, but if you just said, Joey, just watch the X's and O's, I'd say, Jeremy, thank you for your time. I'm out of here. And I know you would say the same to me.
Right. No, the thing, I love going to games. I love being around that. That's what attracted me to this. But what has really kept me in this business is the people you get to know and the things you get to learn. And it just opens your eyes to all these different worlds of where all these different people come from, how they've come to be here. I mean, the basketball team's full of people I never thought I'd meet from all over the world. And then football, it just takes you on a journey where you get to meet all these people. And, I get to know Isaiah Williams from the time he's a freshman in high school till he becomes an NFL player. Tip Ryman, I see work out at a camp, and I see, Rod Smith talking to him and his family and earn a walk-on offer. And then I get to be in his house in his childhood room talking to him after he just gotten drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. Like, that's the stuff that I will remember late in my life is I got to spend those moments and tell their stories that do connect and resonate with people. So that's as fun as it is to go to these games and to be a part of this and interact with all people that watch us, listen to us, read us. It's telling those stories and connecting them to their favorite teams in a more deeper way than just these people being avatars in a video game, right? These are people, and that's part of what we want to show people.
Yeah, and I think everybody, no, very few people, I don't want to say everybody, very few people listening to us or reading us have any idea what it's like to be a college athlete. Shout out to the 2% that do, but you can understand struggles. You can understand overcoming adversity. You can understand having a light bulb turn on and everything clicks for you. And I think that's what's fun, is trying to find some way to relate to 18 to 24-year-old kids who are in the best shape of their lives and can do things physically that none of us can and none of us probably ever could, but you can relate to some of the other stuff.
My wife always comments when there's the most pressure on them, and you see these kids be able to handle it, young men, young women be able to handle it, and she sits there and goes, I could never do that. That part as well is what always amazes me about these people.
Dude, if I'm my internet goes out and I'm pressure, I'm absolutely. You've seen me in airports. Someone stops in front of me and I'm going nuts. I can't even imagine when you're everybody's watching. You're dude. I mean, we know you and I have had. I'm sure maybe much fewer of you definitely than me. We have positive people are going to hear that wasn't my best.
Yeah,
and that's a sucky feeling.
Yeah,
and then these athletes live that every day, where sometimes it is their best and it's awesome and we're talking about them for a week, and sometimes it's not their best, and then you have the social media it's just crazy how much is on the plate of athletes, collegiate athletes, professional athletes, to navigate every day.
All right, let's start our six-pack of questions, Joey, and I'll open it up to you first. Number one, what piece of the Illini offense, big or small, from the Western Illinois game do you want to see more of against Duke? So this could be big picture, as good as Altmire played, or just a little formation, or a certain player that played a certain way. What would be yours?
I think I'm going to have people muting the tugboat personnel if I mention that, so I won't, but it kind of aligned with that. Run the ball. That's what I want to see carry over, is the way that they ran the ball, particularly in that fourth quarter against Western Illinois. And I mean, I don't think it was as bad as the first read would tell you through the first two quarters, because the third quarter was kind of a total wash. But Run the ball, control the clock. And I'm not saying don't let Luke Altmire throw it, because he's really, really talented when he does that. But if you are kind of the team, the idea that we think you are, go to Duke against a defensive front that can generate a bunch of pressure, that brings pressure from all over the defense, and run the ball in a way that you believe you can with your three running backs, with five offensive linemen. I think within that, Luke Altmire run the ball. I went and looked, Jeremy, 6 times last season, 7 total quarterbacks. Teams had at least 19 scramble yards for quarterbacks against Duke. That is not a massive number. But if you take a good game from Caden Fagan, from Aiden Lawford, from Khalil Valentine, and get Luke Altmire in that 30, 35 range, where a couple of those are first downs, all of a sudden you've got a lot of different options there. I think we saw last week, at least in week 1, that's got to carry over to week 2, that Duke is a little bit susceptible to a quarterback who can move, going out there and making some plays with his legs. And we know that Luke Altmire is capable of that.
Yeah, as aggressive as they are, that creates some openings if you're able to handle it, or you time things up right. So screen passes, quarterback keepers, draws. I'll be interested to see if they run some of those where they let the outside guys get up the field, and Luke's got a big hole that he can run up for a first down. I think you want to do it sparingly, but I do think the running back usage was high on my list for this question. I just loved how they spread out that running back room and how they used him, because I do think Illinois has an advantage in that front 7 and with those running backs against these linebackers of Duke, who struggled a little bit against Elon. I'm sure they're going to try and clean some stuff up. But the other one I would say is Altmire spreading the ball out the way he did. Last year, obviously, you could lock onto 1 or 2 receivers and you could trust those guys to make the plays. You got to go to because I don't know if anybody's earned the trust yet. Maybe Justin Bullock did a little bit of being able to go win one-on-one battles. I think you got to go to the person that is open, right? You got to spread it out. You can't just lock onto one guy, even late in games here. So I thought he did a pretty good job for the most part, outside of forcing into Rusk a few times that we talked about, of really spreading it out and going where the defense had an opening. And that's why I think, as encouraging as Justin Bullock was, as encouraging as Hank Beatty was, this week could be Hudson Clement or Colin Dixon's time, or it could be Cole Russ time. this week. But I do like spreading that out because this defense, the windows you're going to have are going to be shorter than you did against Western Illinois when he had 4 or 5 seconds to sit in the pocket. It's going to be 2 to 3 seconds. So Luke is very poised, very good at going through his reads. Trust those reads, go and spread the ball out. So that's what I liked.
Yeah, it could be Malik Elsie. It could be Alex Cappy-Jones, too. A couple guys in that conversation. I don't know that this will be the same conversation for Indiana. Maybe by Indiana, you have a more established go-to guy in crunch moments, but right now you don't. So, yeah, see, just don't lock on anywhere. And Luke Altmire goes through his reads. He's really, really good about that. But now, along those lines, you need the wide receivers to get open and to make those plays when they're open. But I do think he did a really good job of spreading that around last week. And we talked about it post-game. That felt like what last week was, right? They could have run the ball all day long against Western Illinois, but it felt like they wanted to really stress test some of those receivers. And I think there'll still be some of that. I think there will be some stress testing happening for those receivers, but now it's just a lot more stress, right? And someone's got to step into that role.
All right. Same question for the defense. What part of the Illini defense, big or small, from the Western game do you want to see more of against Duke? Go ahead, Joey.
I'd get a takeaway. Keep stacking those takeaways. Like Gabe Akis had the strip sack for the fumble. Obviously, Western Illinois didn't really push the ball downfield very often to let that secondary go to work.
That'll change.
Yeah, that'll absolutely change this week. But if you to go into a good Duke team, a team that won 9 games last season, to go in there and win, you probably have to get a takeaway or two preferably. Darian Mensah does not throw a lot of interceptions through 6 last season. 2 of those came in 2 Power 5 opportunities, one against Kansas State, one against Oklahoma. That's not a big enough sample size probably to justify a lot of diving into, but it did happen. A third of his interceptions thrown came against those 2 opponents. But this has been the talk for Illinois this offseason for the defense. Aaron Henry's got his pillars, and I can't remember all of them. But to be a dominant defense, you've got to stop the run. But they also really, really emphasize get more takeaways. Corey Parker talked to you about that when he was talking about Caleb Patterson to stop being a proximity guy and go make a play, referring to that near touchdown in the end zone for Western Illinois.
And I wrote that the Tanner Heckle play. It was a nice pass breakup. You love to see that in the guy's first basically
bring
game.
It in.
The next step for him, I'm sure they're talking about is, hey, make that interception. Go with 2 hands up and make that play, because obviously the game was out of hand at that point, but that could be a game changer this week.
That's right. So I think you got to get a couple of those, because then you pair that with my idea to run the ball more, and all of a sudden you're keeping Darian Mensah off the field. And when he is not on the field, that is a good thing for Illinois. He is so freaking talented. We'll talk about him more. He is really good. He can stress that Illinois secondary in a big way.
All right. I went with more Malachi Hood. I want to see more of him. I was very encouraged, obviously, with last season, the way he ended it. But then he made some plays, obviously one at the goal line where he had to stop, and then just moving sideline to sideline. We know how good he is there. I just think they need that kind of athletic linebacker on the field more. And I'm not saying take Dylan Rosiak off, but you could take Dylan Rosiak off for a series or 2, and I would feel comfortable with Malachi Hood. But Malachi Hood would be the guy I would have on the field, just because I think physically he's more talented than James Krutz. And I think James Krutz has a role, the third down sub package. He's a very good pass rusher. But I would like to see more Malachi Hood against this team to spy Darian Mensah when you have to. Mensah's not what I would call a running quarterback. But he can. He's like Luke in that regard. These quarterbacks have some real similarities, which is why you're nervous against Mensah, because Luke Altmire is very, very good. But he can make you pay, and he can throw on the move. So to have a guy like Malachi Hood that can chase him around, I think would be great. A guy that you feel like in coverage can make a play if presented it to him. And I was really encouraged about what he did run defense-wise. And they got a running back who's pretty good as well. And I think it's Jaquez Stewart. Jaquez Moore is really good, really quick and shifty. So I trust Rosiak between the tackles. I trust Rosiak to be where he needs to be. But Malachi Hood, certainly, I think getting him about 30 snaps against this offense, I think could be very beneficial. And to keep Rosiak fresh for late in the game, because we know Rosiak can be pretty good late in the game on a hot day like it's going to be in Durham on Saturday. I think more Malachi Hood could be a good thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think when you think of Malachi Hood, a lot of what comes to mind is that Northwestern game where he spied Jack Lausch, and what ultimately was Jack Lausch's final college football game. Now focusing only on baseball for Northwestern. Again, I don't think Mensah runs like Jack Lausch did with the frequency, but he can. And about the worst thing that you could have happen if you're Illinois is if you cover like crazy and you stop Mensah from beating you with his arm and he just picks up that first down with his leg. So that's where I like the idea of Malachi Hood. It does feel like it's getting more and more clear. Like we went back and forth a lot in training camp in the preseason. Is it going to be Hood? Is it going to be JoJo Hayden? Is it going to be Kenen Odeluga? Who gets more of those? And I just think that every time Malachi Hood is on the field, it's like, oh, he does something that is you can't really replicate with many other players on the roster. With Kenen Odeluga, you can get that guy who can rush the passer, right? With JoJo Hayden, you can get that guy, maybe not a straight up replacement, but you can generate that productivity and those skill sets in other spots. Kind of hard to generate where Malachi Hood does somewhere else with his size, with his quickness, with his explosiveness. I think it's more and more like, all right, he's got to have a role on this football team. I'm trying to think of who it would remind me of from the last couple of seasons without me trying to shoehorn Joe Barna back into the discussion.
Dude, linebacker, they just haven't had many of those guys. I would probably go back to Delshon Phillips. The last time they had a guy with that kind of length, athleticism. Tariq Barnes was a good player, but inconsistent. And I just think Malachi's got a little bit more length to him, a little bit more fluidity to him. So, he's a really interesting player. And the only guy that can kind of match what he does, at least physically, is Grant Bierman. He's not ready yet. So he's got to add a little bit more strength. But in the future, you feel really good about what he's going to bring as well. All right, number 3 here, Joey. What concerns you most about this matchup against Duke's defense?
Are you not going to put the little questions on the ticker?
I didn't.
That's usually I can.
These are longer questions, so I just.
Yes. It's their pressure. It's the way that Manny Diaz generates pressure from a number of spots. I know you've got a secondary stat I assume you're going to bring out here, so I don't want to steal that from you, just in terms of the way their DBs can get TFLs, can get in the backfield. And I also think I know Bart Miller told me they are expecting a lot of games on the defensive line, a lot of stunts, a lot of movements. And you know what? Something we talked about before the season. Of course you would. If you're Manny Diaz, you saw that was like the big conversation out of, was it Western Michigan, Central Michigan last year, Western Michigan's this year. This big thing was, hey, they moved and Illinois didn't handle it very well. And there's a reason why that game in particular leaves kind of a crappy taste in the mouth of the offensive line, because they didn't play well against Western or Central Michigan. They won the game, but the offensive line didn't inspire a lot in that game. They got better later on, but because of that, I would expect Manny Diaz to try to run games, to make this veteran offensive line, this continuity that we've talked about for months on end, make them deliver on the road against a defense that's talented, against ends that can generate pressure, against a good defensive tackle who can generate pressure, and see if they can stop the run, if they can go get in Luke Altmire's face a little bit. Similar, they did a little bit of that stunting. I went back and watched the 23 Penn State game when Manny Diaz was the defensive coordinator. You don't have to run a ton of games with the defensive front that Penn State had, but they did run some, one of Luke Altmire's interceptions came because pressure on a stunt. So I think that concerns me. Can Illinois be what they think with the continuity on the offensive line and shut that down?
Yeah, and you mentioned it. They do bring pressure from their DBs a lot too. Chandler Rivers, who's an All-American cornerback, really good player, had 10 pressures, 7.5 tackles for loss. Terry Moore, their All-American safety, who is out with a knee injury. He's not playing this game, but he had 7 tackles for loss and several pressures as well. So they will bring it from everywhere, and they can bring it from their nickel. They can bring it from, their corners. They can bring it from their linebackers, and they do a lot of stunting and moving. So that's where the veteran offensive line does have to pay off, Joey. Like that's where playing together as much as they have all of last year, all of this offseason, all of that experience. Josh Kurtz is your captain. Josh Geske seen everything. JC Davis has seen everything. At this point, Melvin Priestley has basically seen everything. And Brandon Henderson has a lot of experience too, right? Like that should pay off in this game. It needs to pay off. And running backs have to block too. right? And that's a question we have, I think, outside of everybody but Caden Fagan. So Aiden Lawfrey, we'll see how much better he's gotten with blocking and picking up blitzes as well. The other thing that concerns me is Rivers is like potential top 50 draft pick. He can win one-on-one contested catches, right? And that's kind of what I'm talking about with Luke is, do you have the receivers that one-on-one, when they're pressuring you and they're blitzing and they're going man-to-man in coverage, do you have, and they run man-to-man only about 35, 40% of the time. They're a zone team that likes to keep their eyes on the quarterback. Do you have the guys that can go win those contested catches when they are in man, like against a really good secondary in Duke? So the receivers are going to be tested, and it's a question we have, and it could come up in a big play where Chandler Rivers and one of the Illini receivers are going up for a pass. Can Luke trust his receiver to go make that play? There's a big test for that group.
Yeah, it is. And he kind of gets into my next point the other way around it. But yeah, those guys can make a play if one of your receivers doesn't. If you don't have a Pat Bryant to make the play, if one of those receivers doesn't have, Chandler Rivers will. So you get pressure mixed with the good secondary. We've seen that before, right? It's been a little bit since we've seen that from Luke Altmire, but those two things, if they happen in tandem, that could be a long day.
All right, Joey. Number 4, what gives you the most confidence about the matchup against Duke's defense?
Your strength, which we've talked about being the secondary defensively, matches up with their strength, which is a really good quarterback and talented receivers.
Well, I'm talking about Duke's defense, the matchup against them.
Oh, beans. When I prepared these, I only had 5. Can you take this one? I will think on the fly.
I will take it. Most confidence against Duke's defense is, I hate to keep it simple, Luke Altmire's a completely different quarterback than when he played against Manny Diaz the last time. So I get like the national conversation. I have some questions. How do you deal with that kind of offense, especially when Penn State demolished you last year? But Manny Diaz does not have Abdul Carter, Danny Dennis Sutton, Zane Durant. Who else? Adisa Isaac was on that team. That team was absolutely loaded front to back of that Penn State defense 2 years ago that just wreaked havoc on Luke Altmire and really gave him a lot of confidence issues at the time. Luke's a different quarterback. He's poised, he's confident, he's comfortable. I don't think this is going to be overwhelming for him. And combined with a veteran offensive line, I trust Luke to not be overwhelmed. Like there's been very few games I feel like he's been overwhelmed over the last really since that Penn State game. Oregon felt like he tried to do a little bit too much last year. There's some games maybe he didn't play his best, but I just trust him to give Illinois a chance and to be poised and to make sound decisions. So his offensive line's got to play well. Obviously, his receivers got to play well, but I think going on the road, Luke Altmire gives you a chance. You have one of the best quarterbacks in the country, one that is capable of matching or surpassing what Darian Mensah does.
Yeah, that's fair. I now know what we're talking about, which is very helpful for me. Confidence, I like what we saw in the running game. I hate to just keep leaning on that. I do think you could see some more the tight ends could clean some stuff up out there. The offensive line in certain runs can play better. But I like what you have. The different, we've heard Brett Bielema talk about, and we've known it. We know they all have different running styles. Did you not feel it when Khalil Valentine got the ball? Like when we watched that live, it's like, this is totally different. Like even from Aiden Lawfrey, who is not slow by any means, when Khalil Valentine got the ball, in that moment, I kind of understood everything Brett Bielema had been saying about 3 different types of running backs. I do think you could maybe run some options, run some quarterback keepers to let Luke Altmire against some of those linebackers. I just think this is going to be the game where that running attack really shows up. And I think they're going to want to. I really think that they're going to be comfortable running the ball, and they've got the guys to do it. That trio's healthy. I think they each had moments against Western Illinois. That's probably what this is going to be. Just a lot of guys over the course of the season, a different guy having different moments in games. Maybe one guy gets hot and Brett Bielema or Thad Ward, Barry Leonard just roll with it, right? But I like the way they can run the ball, and I think Duke could allow a little bit there. And frankly, I think Duke can really generate pressure, as we've talked about, with that defensive front. So if you can run the ball, keep them on, I think that would be beneficial.
I will discuss more of the running backs in our picks to click, I think, coming up. Number 5, Joey, what concerns you most about the matchup against Duke's offense?
Mensah. I mean, Mensah, that's the answer. He's really, really good at kind of, he can beat you, man. He can throw that ball and down the field in a big way. I thought that's what they looked the best last week. They started kind of throwing some of those shorter routes. When they let him really air that thing out, Duke looked different. And they've got guys to go make plays. And Illinois will be without Jaheim Clark. Cornerback, he's got a hamstring injury. He's not going to be there. I think if you're not getting home, if you give him time in the pocket, which I don't know that that's necessarily going to be the case, he can make a lot of plays out of very little. And he's just really, really talented. I think he's just starting to scratch the surface of it.
Yeah, he's a redshirt sophomore, was fantastic at Tulane last year. And, I kept tweeting it during the game, like Duke didn't look that impressive defensively. I do agree with you. Their wide receivers are good. I don't think it's like unbelievably great. Barcotti's a good player, Harvard transfer, but he had a bunch of Power 4 offers, decided to go to Harvard for 3 years, graduates after 3 years, and then he decides to go up a level, but had 1,000 yards last year, 100 yards in his first game with Duke. Keyshawn Brown, really good slot receiver. Reminds me of that Webster kid from Florida Atlantic a couple years ago, just really quick, really fast, can get down the field. But Mensah's arm, man, like that's what they look like. That's what an NFL arm looks like. And the only comp I can make is when he throws the ball, it reminds me of Michael Penix, only he's not left-handed. He's a right-handed guy. He's just very gifted with throwing the ball down the field. And I think he's got a chance to play in the NFL in a couple of years. And there's a reason Duke paid him, $4 million. He's really good. And he can beat you. So that's the concern, is they have a quarterback that can match yours or outplay yours. There's not many quarterbacks on the schedule I would say that about, including Ohio State's. Like, I would feel better about Luke Altmire going into a game, at least right now, than Julian Sayin. But Mensah, I feel like has a real chance. I think the good thing is you are getting him in his first game against a Power 4 opponent at Duke. So I think that is a good thing for Illinois. But if he's allowed to be comfortable, if you don't get pressure on him, he can find space and he can throw it into a bucket, man, 40 yards down the field.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring up, we know Juice Clark will not be available. I think the Caleb Patterson anxiety is probably a little over-exaggerated to this point. I mean, he got beat on a double move against Western Illinois. I think he probably should have come up with that pick in the end zone. We know who he is. He's not like a bad cornerback. He had a bad moment, and I do think he'll probably get the on Barkay. That'll probably be his assignment. Two bigger guys. We maybe would hope you can keep up with him a little bit better. Can we talk about Miles Scott at the nickel, Jeremy?
Yes, go for it.
I think I'm buying it enough because I saw it, but also, why are you showing this against Western Illinois? Like, literally,
for you guys listening on the podcast, I just did the Brian Windhorst fingers.
Yeah. Nobody was talking about this as a possible, literally nobody. Unless I missed it, I don't recall anybody in media scrums saying, hey, do you think Miles Scott could play the nickel, or even the smallest hint of that to come out? So you have this.
We didn't see it in camp at all. Like, we didn't see a lot of camp, but we didn't see it at all.
So you have this thing that is completely off the radar, and you deploy it in the first defensive possession of the second half against Western Illinois. Mm-hmm. And then if you're Aaron Henry, you come into your Monday press conference. We were going to ask about it anyway because you saw it in the film review. Yeah. But he made sure to bring it up just in case it got by anybody. Why are you doing this? Is it just to show Duke that, hey, we want you to spend time preparing for Miles Scott at the star and Mac Resetich at free safety? Or, which I think, like, that's where I'm stuck. Or was it, hey, you got to figure out if you can do this in the course of a game? Western Illinois is a good test run for this to put out there, because I do think ultimately that might be your 5 best right now. But why? Like, I can't. It doesn't bother me, but I don't understand.
So you're saying you're more skeptical, and you're saying it's more gamesmanship, that they're putting it on film to make Duke scout for it.
I just think that as much as they go out of the way to hide certain things, you have this thing that was totally hidden, and then you unveil it against Western Illinois. That flies in the face a little bit of what I think.
I also think Aaron Henry's pretty terrible at keeping secrets. Like, he's got a secret guy that he talks about for 10 minutes in spring ball, like Tanner Heckel or whatever it is. I'm more the latter because I don't know if they trust their cornerback depth enough. And I don't think they're probably quite trusting of Tanner Heckle at star. So they're like, hey, early in the season, if we need somebody else, how do we get 5 of our best defensive backs on the field? And Caleb Patterson certainly is one of their top 5 right now, is starting cornerback. But if he struggles or they want to take him out for a series, they want to take Torrey Cox out for a series, or if one of those guys goes down, what's your best bet? It's Xavier Scott at corner, I think, rather than Tyler Strain or Amar Reynolds or Tanner Heckle, and putting Miles Scott, a guy you trust implicitly because he just knows where to be and when to be there. Maybe not as great of an athlete as Matt Krasevich, but I think they trust him so much. I don't know how much putting him at nickel is going to change anything Duke does, because I don't know if Miles Scott's going to like freak them out because he's not probably an NFL player that we know of. But I do think for Illinois, it just allows them to rotate a little bit more, to give a different look, to get Matt Krasevich on the field, and to get Xavier Scott out at corner in case they think Caleb is not ready for it, or Torrey Cox is too small against somebody. I think it just gives them that other look until Jaheim Clark comes back. That would be my theory about it.
That's fine. I can see that too. And I can understand that like you'd have to do it against Western Illinois to see it in the course of a game, that it can be done. Shout out to Miles Scott for even making this the possibility of a conversation. He has played all 3 of those safety spots, both the boundary, the free, and now in the nickel. That is impressive. He's a guy they trust completely. Something was weird about doing that in that game, in that moment, and then Aaron Henry coming in and basically doing the whole like, hey, did y'all see that? Like, and then I asked him about it.
It's weird.
He dropped a little bit of a wink when I asked him about it. So I don't know. It just seems like one of those things that if it's something they have in their pocket, why wouldn't you unveil that at Duke?
I think what they'll unveil is some more exotic pressure package, right? Like Joe Barner was kind of hinting at with you. Like that's what I think they would keep from Duke rather than just a personnel package.
It could be. And the thing is, it's like this probably isn't even a conversation if Jaheim Clark is totally healthy.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought it was when something like that happens, our antennas go up, right? Like, why are you saying this? Why are you doing this right now?
It's good to be skeptical. That's part of our job. All right, number 6. What gives you the most confidence about the matchup against Duke's offense, Joey?
Gabe Akis.
He's number 1 on my list. Yeah.
I mean, you have a guy who can be a one-man pass rush, and I think you saw enough from Tomiwa Durajaye, from James Thompson, from Kurt Neal, from Joe Barna, from Daniel Brown, where, yeah, you do have a one-man pass rush, but those guys can take advantage of one-on-one matchups too. And I think the best thing you can do is get Mensah, just get some pressure on him. I did look it up, though. The numbers for him while he's being pressured are not like stunningly different, but I do think in a powerful opponent, you do want to make him feel like he's got to get the ball out quickly. When he's under pressure, completes 57.5% of his throws, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. The more you can generate that, and if you can do that without sacrificing a linebacker to come in and blitz, if you can just generate a true pressure with your 5-man front, then I think that can bode well for a team to drop back into coverage. Maybe you see a Joe Barna, a Daniel Brown. Maybe Daniel Brown's your guy dropping into coverage at times this game. He can do it. He can move. But I just think as long as you got Akis bringing heat on one side, you have enough around him to generate pressure elsewhere.
Yeah, one of my answers might be depth, Joey. The depth of your defense needs to show up in this game because I don't think Duke has that depth quite on their defense or their offense this point of Manny Diaz's program, to where on a hot day, and maybe we're overrating it, but if you can be fresher in the fourth quarter and what I think is going to be a close game, having Daniel Brown rotating in throughout the game, having Malachi Hood and Matt Krasevich and some of these defensive linemen like Pat Farrell and Angelo McCollum, having those guys rotate in and giving you quality reps so that you're fresh in the fourth quarter, I think that could be really important to getting to Mensah, to making a big play late in the game. But can I give maybe a little bit more of a warmer take?
Please.
Aaron Henry? Should he give me a lot of confidence in this game? Because he's been pretty good against quarterbacks like this. The only one that Illinois, of the elite quarterbacks they went up against last year that crushed them, was Dylan Gabriel. And that was, I think, a lot due to the personnel around him, and just Oregon's just way more talented than Illinois, and they just blitzed him right away. And the early turnovers certainly
Dylan Gabriel had to be great and he's a super good quarterback. Against Illinois, he had to be great for about 2 quarters.
Yeah, right.
There wasn't the sustain. Now, I think he could have sustained it, but yeah, he's the only one, and they did a lot of screen work that game.
Now go against a Ryan Brown or Ethan Cadillac-Manis, I'm a little bit more nervous for Illinois, and both those guys are on the schedule this year. But against Jalen Daniels, against Aiden Childs, obviously is a younger player, but Mensah's still just in his 3rd year here. I liked what he did with those quarterbacks. Were able to get out. Lenore Sellers, of course, the one I missed here early. The way he was able to contain them to just be pocket passers and beat you downfield, where you feel like your secondary, with as smart as it is and experienced it is, they can contain them, and that they have to make long drives down the field so they can't have all these explosive plays. And that's where I do think a guy like Malachi Hood, being able to contain him as a runner, could be really important as well. So obviously you got to get pressure on him. The front 5 has to get pressure on him. Akis, Tomiwa, James Thompson got to have very good games here. That will really help Aaron, but I've been really impressed with how he's been able to handle these talented quarterbacks. And this is a great early test to see, if Aaron continues to take that step as a defensive coordinator, because they want to be a dominant defense. This is a great chance to show it. And Aaron's been holding the defense to that standard. So he's been pretty good at this. I'm interested to see if he can follow that up again this year.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Where I was going earlier before I completely lost track and had the wrong answer to a question that didn't exist. As much as Mensah concerns me, and he's so talented, their strength is, I think we could fairly say, their passing game with the quarterback. They paid a bunch of money to be their strength, and your strength is your secondary. Like that, supposed to be your strength. So those things, I think Aaron Henry will find a way to make life easier on his secondary. I think he's got something up his sleeve in terms of getting pressure on Mensah, or just throwing totally different looks at Mensah. Maybe that's just kind of Matthew Bailey's story I've been trying to force to reality, his pre-snap kind of trickery that we saw a little bit early on last year. Maybe you see more of that from him. Maybe you see more guys dropping into coverage. As long as they didn't Gabe Akis, I don't really care who it is. But he seemingly would have something in his bag of tricks here. Would you think?
Yeah. I'm really interested to see what that is. I'm really interested. I mean, obviously Barry Lunny, the game with him and Manny Diaz is going to be a lot of fun. I'm sure Barry feels like he owes Manny one with what Manny did 2 years ago. But obviously he's got a different quarterback now. So all of that I'm really, really interested in. But yeah, this is a game where Xavier Scott and Matthew Bailey, if you're NFL players, make the plays, right? And that I do feel confident in those guys. So at least you have that. And Duke's got some good receivers. I think Illinois will see better receivers down the line here, with whether it's Washington, Ohio State. Indiana's got really good receivers. So it doesn't intimidate me as maybe some of these ACC opponents it will. All right, let's get to our picks to click. Let you go first here, Joey. Who's your pick to click on offense?
We're still not in the can't pick this guy window, so it's Luke Altmire. I know that's not very fun, but I
get it.
In particular, Luke Altmire's legs.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna rush for 35 to 40 yards in this game. I do think it'll be available for him to be able to do that. And then just broadly, if you're the quarterback that we believe that you are, just in terms of what we've seen out of you the last 2 years, if you're the quarterback of the team that we think Illinois could be, this is a game you go in there and you be all of the above, right? You make the throws you need to make. The command of the offense is no question for me. I think Luke Altmire is prepared and poised to do that. And in particular, like my pick to click is Luke Altmire's legs.
Yeah. This is a really difficult Illinois offensive group if you're not picking Luke Altmire, right?
Can we decide, like, we can't – when do we not get to pick him? When does he get Isaiah Williams, Chase Brown territory? Is this it?
I gave you your one pick for the year. I guess I get one pick for the year.
Okay, deal. No more Luke Altmire for me.
But it's got to be like a 250-yard game, or like, obviously you said the legs. If you nail that prediction, like, yes, I'll give you that. So I want to go one of the running backs that I do like to match up against their linebackers at that second level. I think your offensive line, despite Duke having some really good edge players, I think your offensive line can have an advantage, especially on that interior. It's hard to pick one, right? Aiden is a breakaway guy. Khalil with that juice. I feel like there's a little bit because Caden ran into one of his offensive linemen on one play. Like people are like, I don't know if he's got it at running back. Every time this guy is healthy and plays a full game, he's getting like 70 plus yards and usually a touchdown. Like this guy might not be a perfect running back, but he's a damn good one. He's a damn good productive running back. And I agree with you, Joey. I think Illinois is going to want to own time of possession. I don't think that means they're going to run the ball 50 times and only throw it 20 times. But I do think Brett Bielema is going to want to establish that physicality throughout this game, wear Duke's defense down, keep Mensah off the field. And Caden Fagan's a huge part of that. And if we're talking about a screen pass or a passing play, you get guys one-on-one with a linebacker, Caden Fagan's the kind of guy I'd like to do it. So it would not shock me if Caden Fagan has 100-plus all-purpose yards in this game, gets 15 touches, scores 1 or 2 touchdowns. So I'm still very excited about Caden Fagan being healthy for an entire year because when he is healthy, he produces, man.
Yeah, I think to the point you mentioned, he ran into one of his blockers, which, as you point out in the film review, not to give it away, actually probably helped him gain a few more yards. And I also think, like, for better or for worse, and this isn't everybody, you get into video game mode, like, this massive human against Western Illinois, like, you, in your brain, I mean, we talked about it, like, we're guilty of thinking he was going to have 100-plus yards, at least I am. I don't want to lump you into that, against Western. So when it's not that, it's like, oh, is this even like, I feel like him offensively and Caleb Patterson defensively are kind of getting a little bit of like the week one overreaction, just in terms of what it was.
Yeah, but I think we saw if Illinois wanted to run Caden Fagan 20 times, he probably had 150 yards, right? So, no, I think he's a really good player. I think if he's healthy, man, I think he's, as I predicted before the season, I think he's a 900-plus all-purpose guy. He's just not going to be a workhorse because they don't need him to be a workhorse. But in this type of game, I think he's going to be really, really big. So hard to pick out one skill player with this team, but I just like the matchup for him. All right, give me a pick to click for the defense, Joe.
Man, I am not being very fun in this one, but I think it's Xavier Scott.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to go game.
No, come on. I can't. That is like just shut the pod down. It's not worth it anymore. But one, his versatility, his ability to go outside if Illinois needs him to do that. It's also, can you dial up some Kansas magic in a game that we're kind of looking at in a similar light, only it's on the road? Can you have that first team all Big Ten NFL draft pick game-changing play? I'm not saying 2, and I'm not even saying 1 for a touchdown.
Yeah, 3.
Can you the fumble, right? Can you be the guy to turn the tides defensively on a team that we know, I think pretty comfortably, is going to throw it more than they saw last week against Western Illinois. So the opportunities will be there to make some of those plays and see if you can quiet a home crowd. Can you do all the cliche things? But this feels like a Kansas moment. I don't know if you can manifest one like he had last year against Kansas, but his versatility, they're going to be able to line him up at a few different spots, and I like that with him.
Joey, I'm glad you went Xavier because I was going to take one of the Scotts. I'm going Miles Scott. I think this is a game that deep safety role. Mensah will push it down the field a lot, which if you disguise things the right way and you got the free safety, you can make the play. You got somebody smart that can trick him like Miles Scott. I think you might have an opportunity. And I think Miles Scott, guy that I get it. I am so intrigued by Matt Krasetich. Might bring him up here in a minute, but I am so intrigued by him. At the same time, like Miles is really good. Like he's a really good player. He's a really steady player. And I think in a big game like this, he made a big play. Was it against Kansas? Yeah, he had an interception against Kansas, didn't he? But yeah, because Jalen threw 4 of them. I think he's a guy that can make a big play and confuse a quarterback like that who really wants to push the ball down the field, prove himself. So I'm going to go with the veteran free safety, Miles Scott, making a big play in the back end. All right.
Yeah, I like that.
Give me a bold prediction.
Not at nickel, though, presumably.
No, free safety. I got a free safety on that one.
Interesting.
All right. Offense, bold prediction. What do you got?
Jordan Anderson touchdown game.
I had that written down too. We're going to do that until he does it, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I won't pick it every time, but this feels very much like I think the buzz is real. The snap counts were real and non-garbage time snaps against Western Illinois. He's a guy who can do a couple different things. This feels like if there's a little bit of trickery in Barry Lunney's bag, Jordan Anderson is probably somehow involved in that. And I think this will be the game where you want to unveil that.
All right, my bold prediction, Khalil Valentine has a 15-plus yard touchdown. You mentioned when he got on the field, he's got a little bit something different. Like Aiden's got long speed, that's for sure. Khalil's quickness, man. Like he can just turn quick dime, like just turn and make somebody miss in a phone booth. That would scare me if I'm Duke's linebackers based on what I saw last week. Right. So I just think Khalil's going to have an opportunity, one-on-one role to shake somebody and, really accelerate. And his receivers block well. So I think he's going to get a touch somewhere in that range where he's going to get a 15-plus yard touchdown. How about that for bold, Joey?
That is very specific. I like the specificity of that.
A guy with one career touchdown. And usually you get Caden or Aiden towards the goal line there in the red zone. But
just to back that up a little bit, just with some numbers here, Duke last week had 17 missed tackles.
Yeah.
Elon's quarterback had a big hand in that. With their linebackers, Wesley Williams, their standout edge, each had their 5 guys with 2 or more missed tackles, 2 with 3. That feels like Khalil Valentine's music.
Yeah, that's kind of why I went with it. All right, Joey, your defensive bold prediction. What do you got?
Well, to the surprise of nobody, I thought we were just doing one bold prediction, and I did not prepare a second, but in the spirit of at least trying to keep pace with Jeremy Werner here. Daniel Brown, 1.5 sacks.
Like it.
I am not off the Joe Barna train, but I'm not going to bring up Joe Barna every single podcast, even though I'm very intrigued by him. I think Brown snaps, the way he can rush the passer, which I thought he generated. PFF, I think, only gave him 1 pressure.
I thought they gave him 3.
Yeah,
3.
Yeah, then they felt like more than that. It felt like he was in the backfield getting some heat on the quarterback last week. Now I'm looking it up.
Yeah,
but
3.
Yeah, 3. Barna had 1.
Yeah, 3 and 11 snaps. Pretty impressive.
Barna had 1. Barna was the guy it felt like had a couple more than that. But Daniel Brown, the thing that intrigues me with him, beyond the 3 pressures and 11 snaps, if Aaron Henry wants to drop one of those edges into coverage to give Mensah a different look, I think Daniel Brown gives you a really, really, probably your best bet at doing that and playing in space really well. Barna, Akis, we know them. We know they can do it. Alec Bryant, we think, can do it. Leon Lowry, I don't really know where to expect in terms of a snap count for him. Daniel Brown, that former inside linebacker versatility, he'll let you live in the best of both worlds. And I like what he can give in terms of getting out there on the field, and I like the pressure he's able to generate.
The Illini staff agrees with you. He had 3 drops into coverage in 19 snaps. Lowry was the top outside linebacker with 4 in just 14 snaps. So they are comfortable dropping him back there. And for all the people that hate Gabe Akis dropping in coverage, he did twice last week. So that's fine. And he made a play. He made a tackle on one of them. All right. I'm hedging my bets on the free safety making a play. Mac Resetich in the interception. Yeah.
Not even a pick to click. You're just going to do positions to click.
Yep, that's what we're doing here. I just think Mensah likes to push the ball down the field, and he's very good at it. But, man, if you have some coverage games that you can play, Illinois is very good at hiding what they're running before the snap. I think they're really going to test Mensah and his ability to see those things while they're happening so quickly. And that's where you hope some of this pays off. And, man, Resetich is just such a good athlete. He's the best athlete they got at free safety right now. And I could see him making a play that Mensah doesn't expect him to get to. So I do think one of those free safeties gets an interception. So I'm doubling down there.
Someone asked about Mac Resetich. Asked Brett Bielema. I think it was our friend Scott Ritchie at the News Gazette. Asked about, I think it was either him or Tanner Heckel. At any rate, Brett Bielema said him and Heckel are probably 2 of our most explosive athletes. And I'm sitting here like, same thing. Why are you telling me this? What are you doing here? Heckel, I think obviously we've seen Resetich is the guy that is going to get those snaps and probably a lot more as you move forward here than Heckel. But every time it's like, okay, why are you bringing this up? Right. And at least early on, like it's not going to be like that every presser, but early on, I think it's fair to say like, okay, we didn't really learn a great deal against Western Illinois. Why are you telling me? Why are you telling me these things? And the Resetich, the Heckel thing, that got my interest in terms of, is this for a reason or is this to make Duke think it's for a reason? Because I took the bait entirely.
I love how skeptical you are right now.
And I like, because there's not enough body of work yet against a blowover opponent to really say, like, this will probably be the last week. Like, after this week, if Brett Bielema starts naming every player on the roster, or if Aaron Henry starts naming every defensive player, I think we can safely be like, nope, that's not true. But right now, it's like, what have you been working on that we haven't seen, and what didn't you show against Western Illinois?
Why didn't you let us in practice? Like, this is for the reasons here, for this game, not Western Illinois. It's for this game. It's for Indiana. Those are the ones coming up, because they really do set the tone of the rest of the season, especially as how good USC looked. I know it's, not a great opponent, but they look pretty damn good in their first week, and we know Ohio State is very, very good. So these two games over the next 3 weeks are going to be huge tone setters for the rest of the season. Any final thoughts, Joey, before we board a plane to Durham on Friday night?
No, I'm just so glad to see something where we learn a lot more. And we'll really learn about what this Illinois team is after this weekend. I don't know that Duke is going to – this isn't going to be like going to Nebraska for your first road game like it was last season, I wouldn't think. But Duke's put a lot into this. I mean, this is very much a game. Kansas put a lot into it back in 2023. Duke has put a lot into this game. It's their blue out game. Like, they're turning this up for the number 11 team in the country. And now you get to see, like, okay, is this really what we think it could be? Is this going to be the start of a little bit of a run here?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, how many fans actually show up. There were barely any at Elon.
Apparently, it's going to be quite warm.
Yes.
In Raleigh.
90 degrees. So going from the perfect weather here in central Illinois to the deep south over there. It's going to be big test for both sides. And this is what we're looking forward to. We get to talk about a potentially really close game. And one will learn more about Illinois, more about Duke, and we'll see where we are after this. And, of course, we are going to have our post-game podcast live from Durham on Saturday afternoon, about an hour and a half after the game, of course, after we get to talk to the players and coaches. So be on the lookout for that. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe to us, and hit that notifications bell so that when we do go live, you guys are aware of it. And if you're listening on the podcast, please follow us, rate us, review us wherever you get your podcast. But that'll wrap it up for us. For Joey Wagner, I'm Jeremy Warner. Everybody have a great day. Take care of each other. We'll talk to you next time on the Illini Inquirer podcast.